Good afternoon. I know I'm between you and the lunch, so this is the hardest part, right? Having a technical conversations right before lunch, that's not good. So my slides usually 50-something slides, so I cut down to only 11, so that's a good news. So you can get out lunch early, hopefully, from here. Well, anyway, my name is Muliadi. I'm from ICUBE, and we are from Jakarta. So I just want to say hi from all the team in Jakarta to you, all of you here in Singapore. And if you have a chance to go to Indonesia, we also have a Meet Magento Indonesia every year as well. So please do take an excuse and run and fly to Jakarta and join us, and so you can see all the community there. So I'm not. I mean, I have to be honest. I'm not a programmer anymore. So if you expect me doing any code presentation, you're in the wrong place. So even though this is a technical room, my topic today, bringing sanity, is more like a deep thinking of like what is the best practices. If you put yourself right now in Magento, investing in Magento, what does that mean, and what are you basically up to? Just a quick question before we start. I mean, how many of you has not in Magento yet in this room? Come on, Brian, you're not qualified. So everybody already in Magento. So you already, unfortunately, you already put your shoes in Magento yet. There's nothing, you cannot get out from there. So because if you are not, I mean, this is probably the best time to, make a second thought out. Are you really want to go to Magento or not? I mean, a lot of people try to compare Magento and Shopify. I'll start with this slide. Magento is not Shopify. So it's sorry to disappoint you. It's not going to be plug and play like Shopify. It's not. I think a lot of the Magento here agree with me. Magento is more like plug and pray kind of things. But that's important because this honest assessment of Magento is important as a first step of the success of having Magento, right? You don't expect to have some enterprise platform like Magento and you want to just plug and play and behavior in Shopify. That's not the reason that you invest in Magento in the first place. I mean, I don't know if here, how many of you are merchant, how many of you are SI, but I believe you know very, very true that Magento is an enterprise platform, and it's bound to a lot of the issue that you are going to be facing on that. But that's really the key. I mean, there's like indexer. I mean, you see all those slides for the upgrading the Magento too. Like there's so many steps, so many things that you have to do. Like that's ridiculous. You will think it's just download the database, import the database, done. Isn't that what you want to think with the Shopify? That's what they promise you, right? I mean, but not in Magento. You cannot. I mean, you have to take a look at the catalog structure. What have you done before? What have you done? I mean, the only thing I will add from great presentation before is, like, if you're upgrading to M2, if you're from M1, treat it like you're moving new house. So throw away all your trash, do the full cleanup, and move a new house. Start fresh, start good. It's completely, I will never say M1 to M2 is an upgrade. It's a re-platform. I mean, you have to face that as a fact. And this is perfect because when you move house, you don't want to bring all your trashes, all your bad stuff, like all the stuff that you put on the wall, bring to the new house, right? You want to start fresh and you want to start really getting the Magento 2 right, assuming that you do it right. So that's very the key important thing. So you know Magento is, you choose Magento not because it is like a Shopify. And that's the reason why Magento is never a SaaS. I think Magento at one point tried to be SaaS, Magento Go. I think if you're old enough like me with a lot of white hair, then you know. At one point we tried to be SaaS and it's never worked. Because Magento is not designed, not architected to be a SaaS model. It's just impossible. I mean, I know there's some partners try to do it, but that's not the value of being Magento. I mean, if you put Magento into this prison of SaaS, then it's not Magento. That's not the point of having you invest in Magento. The whole flexibility that you want in Magento, the whole thing that you want to build Magento, that's exactly why you want Magento in the first place. But be careful. This flexibility is really the thing, even though that's the real reason that you choose Magento, the same flexibility is the one also that will destroy your Magento. Right? I mean, I think you've been in, I don't know, how many of you already run Magento more than 3 years? Can I see your hands? Okay, everybody. So I don't have to preach too much on this one. You agree with me. I mean, the same flexibility when you start doing stuff and you start all this stuff, it is the stuff that basically start creating problem and more problem. So the flexibility is actually come with a cost. So that's why it's very, very, very important. I mean, I'm talking something very basic here. When I talk to my developer, I talk to anyone, I'm trying to be, today I try to be in capacity of a CTO, not like not a client, not a consultant. But the first thing I always said to anybody that want to go into Magento, hey, did you spend time to actually try every single features in Magento before you code one single code? And surprisingly, a lot of people doesn't even try. You just go straight, open the book, learn how to do the front end here, front end there, back end, make a new module, straight to the book, straight, go to technical and try to how to extend, make extension and stuff like that. But nobody actually start by opening up like a Magento user guide. Put it that very easily. Go to Magento user guide, span from page 1 to page the last, and try every single thing that Magento user guide actually is saying to understand how exactly Magento works. Surprisingly, a lot of people doesn't do that. Okay, if you want to be honest, how many of you really have go through the entire user guide? Thank you, great. And if you actually taking the Magento certification system analyst, you have to do that, right? I mean, a lot of the question is really understanding Magento inside, outside, every configuration in Magento. If you kind of memorize all of that, you kind of 60% away, you kind of pass into the system analyst part of the certification. I guarantee you that. But that's exactly the first step if you want to get into Magento. Even you are a merchant, you are SI, you are a developer, whoever you are. I think the first success step is understand every single thing that Magento can offer first. I always ask my developer, okay, how can you make changes or customize something if you don't even know how it works originally? That doesn't make sense. It's the same the same thing like, okay, I can give you $1 million houses to you, complete with all inside wall wiring, everything is fiber optic inside the house. Then without understanding how all of this working, all of a sudden, I just need to add another electricity plug in there. I just basically drill the wall and just put my wire and then just try to connect from other wall. Doesn't make sense. That's not how you do it. You have to understanding every single layout on how the fiber optic inside the wall working first before you decide where you're going to put your plug. Or even stupidly, sometimes the plug is already there, but you don't see it. It's probably behind the cabinet in the first place, right? That's the same analogy, right? I mean, you were working with Magento, you try to working with functions. If you don't understand the inside function of Magento itself, how can you make decision whether you should customize or not customize in the first place, right? So that's kind of very important. I mean, this is back on Sanity, because I see a lot when we audit code, we work with client, we work with anything. Even with merchants, sometimes merchant doesn't care how it works. Sorry, I have some merchants client here too, I know. Nah, but I mean, it's sometimes we kind of like, I just wanted this without understanding the how it works. I want the promotion to be like this, but Magento already give you like 25, 30, even 150 combination of promotion that you can do. But the client doesn't care. I just want it like this, completely different. That's the same. I mean, so this works both ways, not only from the technical developer, but also from the business side. But the key of understanding success of using Magento is really the key of knowing how Magento works. Every single thing, how attribute works, how attribute set works, how every promotion engine intertwined with the attributes, how the search decided how it works from the ranking side inner doing, how the sales structure, or the sales object, invoice objects, shipping objects, why Magento designed it certain way like that. What is the initial flow that they have in mind? So those kind of basic stuff seems, but it's important. Before you start making an order split and stuff like that, you have to understand those, right? And then once you get into more technical, now you have to know, obviously, the DI, the overriding, the plugin, the extend. What? What are all the difference of those, right? But it's important to know. Then you can make the right decision of, okay, what should I do? Should I just create a plugin? Should I just make a completely overriding the whole thing? So, but that's required knowledge of the original design of how whoever in Magento office creating that particular module starting with. And this is a continuous process. So if you are a merchant and if you're thinking that implementing Magento and you stop after you've done the first thing and you're done, then unfortunately that's not how it works. I mean, with Magento now, every quarter there's an update. So that's back to the flexibility that we said, right? I mean, even Magento designing now is with the rapid upgrade and stuff like that, we have to follow through, right? I mean once you get behind one version, it's going to be harder and harder to catch up. So, I mean, if you are still 2.1, you know you're already, going to be out of support pretty soon. So now you already have to be in 2.3. So you have to keep up on that, the continuous process. And extensions is the best. Like a lot of merchants and a lot of developers, not you guys, I think you guys here has more experience. This is most of the story that I heard in outside. Unfortunately, it reflects back to all of us that doing it right? I mean, a lot of the things is that when you interview somebody, okay, well, can you do Magento? Yes. What do you do? I install Magento, I install extension. That's it. I have 5 years experience doing that. Install Magento, install extension. Yes, extensions is good, really, really. That's why Magento have Marketplace. We want to leverage as much as possible things in Marketplace. Magento already do a lot of due process to make sure the extension is not malicious and stuff like that. Those are good. But keep in mind, when somebody create an extension, they are creating based on the function that he want to create and only with the base Magento. I don't think a head works creating an extension with thinking, oh yeah, Amasti thinking that way, yeah? So I'm gonna make sure my extension has to work with Amasti. No. Or somebody else, I mean, you can put whatever name there. Each extension have their own mindset on how they create stuff. I mean, unfortunately, as cliche as it sounds, there's many roads go to Rome, or whatever you want to say, what the phrase is. Magento is because of the flexibility. I mean, everybody can do whatever they want as from a design around Magento, I mean, to accomplish something. But it doesn't mean that everybody's going to be compliant to each other. I mean, there are certain ground rules, yes. Oh, they're not overriding, they're not, there are certain things that we can check, validate, but still from the business process, from the goal and the way that it works, once you get one extension, it's okay, 2 extensions, okay, and starting people to 20 extensions, 50 extensions, 100 extensions, that is a time bomb, right? Not only just a time from the function, we back into the continuous process, you want to upgrade. Oh yes, I have all 100 upgradable, only 2 not upgradable because the extension guy doesn't create that module for this version. I'm stuck, right? So those can be small things that are going to make your sanity on your Magento installation going to go crazy, right? I mean, that's why. I always say extension is a blessing, and it's also at the same time it's a curse. So we just have to be very careful on that. And I mean, some people say, I just want a free one. I always find a free extension. I don't want to pay. I mean, be careful. If you're on the open source and stay open source, maybe yes. I mean, that you can survive. But when you start working on a more long-term project, you want open source going upgrade to enterprise, then you have to choose people in the extension that test on both sides, right? I mean, then make sure the extension is also upgradable and stuff like that. Remember again, it's a continuous process. It's not one stop and you're done. I mean, that's to be success. I mean, in Magento, you have to put a lot of more thought than just plug and play. This is, even though it's extensions to be meant to be make things easier, but it doesn't mean that it's easy. And this is the honest conversation that you have to have with your client, you have to have with your boss, that yes, yeah, this extension is there, but it still have to be tested, has to be to see what's the extension do, is going to be impact the core, is it going to be impact the upgrade, is it something I can take on if the developer gone tomorrow, things like that still have a lot of things behind it that still has to be due diligence. And my final slide, see, I said I keep it fast. Then you guys here, I think, how many of you are partner or SI? Can I have hands? So yeah, quite a few. So I think if you're not an SI, if you're a merchant here, I mean, this is why you have SI here that invest their time, go to meet Magento event like this, community that really strong. I mean, I think a good SI will always think beyond just, like I said, like I give you example, just installing extension and installing Magento. I think SI should be empowering your team. I mean, I think if you're a merchant, at one point, you're going to have internal teams, and so it's SI's role is really to working together and to get you as a bet, to run your business better. So that's what SI is supposed to do. It's not taking over your business or something like that. And then, yeah, then this is, that's why I put a quote, a real Magento partner, because everybody can claim they can do Magento. Unfortunately, this is an open source community. There's nothing that we can do about it, and it's the beauty of the open source community. But it doesn't mean that everybody qualifies as Magento. I'm not saying about the official Magento partner. There's also an official Magento partner. I'm even making it much more broader Magento specialists and that can help. So basically, that's the good Magento partner. You will try to basically help you to do things right. Things that being presented before, don't override core and stuff like that. That's in the real Magento partner community. If they are evolving in community engineering, they're involving Magento so much. It's not even a second thought. Has to be done like that. There's not even like a thought of, oh, I will override Magento core or something like that. That's even out of questions. My first word, if I hire anybody in my company, never touch core. I think that's like, I think there's a mantra somewhere. In the Magento one, we do that a lot, right? But it's the same thing, right? This is something that we want to do Magento. Because, Magento is not, Magento, if you treat Magento as a custom platform, then you are born to fail. It's still a product. If you want the Magento to be something that you can use for long, you have to treat it as a product. Even though it's very flexible for customization, it doesn't mean that you customize 90% out of it. That doesn't make sense. If you want to customize 90% out of the Magento, then don't use Magento. You are making yourself harder than you should. You should just create something from full stack or whatever it is that you want to choose. And don't use Magento. Why you use Magento if you're going to 80% or 90% customize the whole thing? You want to use Magento because you can reuse a lot of them in Magento as your best practice, as your core things to do in your businesses, or in whatever your practices. That's how you can make Magento really, really work really well for you. So that's basically what my presentation is. My LinkedIn, I ran out of my business card, so feel free to scan. I'll stop by in my booth. I'll more love to spend question and answer to you guys rather than me preaching. Thank you.
Anyone would like to ask anything? Yes.
Yeah, hi Muliadi, that was a good presentation. Can you share about one successful project you did and what you learned from it? And also one project where you did not do well and what you learned from it.
Which one? M2 or M1 are we talking?
M2.
M2. Well, successful project, quite a lot. The thing is, I think when we are able to utilizing and try to simplify our stuff to leverage Magento functionality as much as possible, that's typically is much more guaranteed success than from the get-go is a heavily customized Magento project. But I think the key of the success in the Magento 2 is, it's really try to, I see a lot of other projects too that success that being highlighted as showcase on Magento website, of the year. Throughout, I see that there's really try to stay within whatever the guideline of Magento. I think that's really, I think that's why I choose this presentation, is because I want to, this is kind of a testament of like when you try to keep it simple, I think the case keep it simple, stupid in Magento 2, that's where you actually more likelihood to success. The not success, I think the not success one, I will say there's quite a few too. I have a recent project that really, it's not the client fault, but it's just really the complexity of their business is really so complex to the point that when the team try to solve every single one out of that customization that they do, it start to keep violating whatever Magento is supposed to do. Things in the way the pricing works, in the way the filter works and stuff like that. They want it so custom to the point that it doesn't make sense. So that's why when you get into that kind of situation, you have to kind of think twice. Is still Magento is still the right tool or not, right? At the end of the day, you don't want to use scissor. You don't want to use the saw to cut a paper and you don't want to use a scissor to cut the wood, kind of things, right? So the right tools for the right project is still there. I mean, in this case of project, I think it's so custom, and they're coming from the custom platform. That's why they can't do all those stuff that they want. So if the client, I mean, in this case, because of the client perspective, if we're not able to convey the client to actually follow the way Magento do, then it's probably not a good idea to continue on the Magento route on that one. Yes.
Hi. Yeah, that's a good, really is a good presentation, especially from a developer perspective. But actually, I'm now working as a merchant right now. Then I can start to see what is the conflict that will happen. First thing is, I know there's always best. It's always best to follow the book and follow the Magento core architecture as much as possible. But there's always a conflict between ideal and the reality. Reality is the client, they have a limited budget, they have a deadline. So sometimes the developer, they have no choice. They have to go for certain extension, and some even opt for those open source extension which doesn't update for a long time. So they might able to solve the problem for short term. But when we talk about like right now, my website had to upgrade from Magento 2.2 to 2.3. Then we cannot proceed because there are too many things that we need to consider. Then we end up spending even more time to like go through each of the customizations, all the extension that we've been using. Some we have to replace it, no choice. So whenever facing this kind of issue as a developer or a solution provider, how do you advise your customer to, like clients to how do we work together to overcome this and get the best results?
Sure. Very, very, very good question. I mean, it's always hard, right? And this is the balancing act, right? I mean, when you're on the merchant side, I was CTO of a couple of startup as well in Indonesia. So I've been on the other side of the seat at the same time. I'm running my consulting, so I'll be on the other side at the same time. So I'm playing both sides. But and I know, I mean, to be prudent on the costs, saving costs as much as possible, it's important on running your business and stuff like that. But there's certain things at the end, right? You saving, let's say, $200 for that extension. There's another extension, let's say from, I'm not saying name because it's always different, I mean, every extension, but let's say you try to save $200 for another extension because the other one is free, the other is $199. But are you evaluating the long-term costs, right? I mean, as far as I'm from the business perspective, what kind of the risks that you're gonna having with this? Is this function that you built on that free extension is part of your core function? Are you, whether in the future, if this function doesn't work, will that impact your business? Those kind of pieces that you have to put together as part of the decision point, right? If there's something like, say, add to wish list, okay, tomorrow I don't have add to wish list for a month in my site, it's okay, then that's fine. Let's try something free, something stuff like that. But if part of your core business to make money is that add to wish list actually bringing 50% of the revenue of your websites, that spending that $199 is definitely worth it to spend, right? So this is kind of honest conversation that's usually, I mean, that has to happen between the SI or the developer, you to whoever that make decision on financial. I mean, we cannot just say free or not free in extension. What we have to know, this is something that important to know, the longevity and the continuous process that I've mentioned about that, how that will impact the rest of your business. So hopefully that answers your question. I know it's not exactly right and black and white answer, but that's what I would do. All right, you guys have good lunch.